I'm really excited today to actually speak to you about the top 10 types of entrepreneur overwhelm. It's taken me years to come up with this list that I really hope is going to help support you in not only identifying kind of the overwhelm that you have, but actually being able to pinpoint with 100% clarity how to improve it and what to do so that you don't feel like you're at the end of your tether and you're not sure what to do. But you can actually take steps to overcome it in a more sustainable way. So I really hope that you find this content incredibly useful and applying it to yourself whilst you run your business. Okay, so the first one is low energy. You can be overwhelmed because your energy isn't high, right? You just feel like you're burning out, you can't do anything, and the amount of energy that you have is just dwindling. So this means that some tasks that would have taken you maybe an hour, suddenly it's taking you 3. You suddenly become incredibly overwhelmed because you're just not being efficient, your energy is low, and you can't move forward in a sustainable way. This is where you want to, maybe it's switching the nutrition, it's a diet, it's prioritizing your exercise, it's prioritizing your health. There's different strategies there to massively increase that energy. Maybe it's taking some rest, okay? So if you're struggling with low energy, that's where you want to focus. Next, lack of clarity. For some entrepreneurs, they're actually not sure what they're doing with their business. I've spoken to some people where, I'll give an example. So this lady named Anna, she owns a law firm in China, and she's there, she's got a law firm, she's doing well, and she said, what about, I don't know what to do. Right? I'm kind of working in it, I'm enjoying it, I'm making loads of money, but I'm not sure if I should pursue something different. So what happens is they don't have that direction, so suddenly they feel very overwhelmed. There's that lack of clarity. They aren't sure what direction is next. So what happens is it filters down in their business. Now suddenly they're overwhelmed because they can't be the visionary for their business. They can't move it forward in a sustainable way because they don't even know where they're going. So make sure that you start to look into that clarity. This is where hiring someone to help give you that clarity is one of the best things that you can do, so they can ask strategic questions, help you move forward in a more sustainable way. Okay? Next, we've got decision-making paralysis. Now, a lot of people and entrepreneurs struggle when it comes to big decisions, and they off-put them. So, don't think I should make that today. They're thinking about other things. So what they don't follow through on the elements that would actually help them in a really, really effective way. Now, the challenge there is that there's loads of decisions to be made. They don't make them. What happens? More decisions need to be made. Now suddenly they're overwhelmed because there's so many freaking decisions to be made, and they don't even know where to start. So this is where you've got to be able to look at business decision-making systems, right? We have an unreal one that I teach my clients. It's so good. Like being able to clearly identify, I'm not sure if it's pros, cons, alternatives, how do you mitigate the challenges there? But being able to just make a decision, even if it's the lesser of 2 negative outcomes, being able to make that and move forward allows you to move out of that overwhelm and give you some more space to actually be able to move forward more sustainably. Next, we've got the fear of failure. Now, fear of failing, and actually hand in hand with fear of success, is one of the reasons why a lot of people feel overwhelmed, because suddenly they're having all these thoughts in their head, right? They're moving things forward, they're getting there, they've got 6, 7 figures, they're about to break it, new thing, suddenly they're like, what happens if I fail? What happens if this? And then what happens is suddenly they experience this overwhelm because they're very isolated because they're at the top, they're having these thoughts, and suddenly they start to move downhill. Like they're really not sure what to do because you don't have complete control of the outcome. So now suddenly there's this doubt. There's this element of not being sure. And without that clarity and without that focus, it's very difficult to lead the organization. So it's that doubt, it's that fear that can often trip entrepreneurs up and stop them moving forward sustainably. Next, whilst we're on that, perfectionism. Perfectionism is something that I speak about time and time and time again. Perfectionism is one of the 6 types of entrepreneur procrastination. It's one of the 8 lifestyle blocks. Like perfectionism comes up again and again and again. And it's even one of the top 10 types of overwhelm. Like why? Because it is so detrimental, especially for tech entrepreneurs, those that are very good with developing and coding and things like that. Like you've got to be a perfectionist in that so that you don't have the bugs and you have the software working properly. The challenge there is it can cause a lot of overwhelm when applied to other areas of your life because you're attempting to make everything perfect and you're attempting to reach this perfect standard which doesn't exist. So what happens is you feel very overwhelmed. You aren't moving forward in a way that works, And if you do have time, you spend it trying to perfect things and getting it 99.99999% to 100, and you feel overwhelmed with too much to do. Next, we have internal pressure. This is slightly different. Now, the internal pressure comes from setting very, very high standards. Now, I think it's important to set high standards in your life. However, I work with some people that set such high standards that they look at their day and they go, if I was Superman every hour of the day, what could I get done? And this is what they do. They then cram it in, they get everything. That's a Superman day right there. If I'm Superman every hour, throughout the day, boom, that's a Superman day. And then what do? They attempt to go through that. Suddenly they feel a little tired, things aren't working. They only get through, let's say 90% of their Superman list, and then they become hard on themselves. Why don't I do this? Why? I need to get this done. They feel overwhelmed because they try and cram so much stuff in, and it's important to compress time, but not if it's going to negatively impact you and cause you to feel like you're not sure what to do next. You feel overwhelmed, like what's my next step? There's too much to do. That's where you've got to move away from just this internal pressure and instead add a buffer. Something that I've spoken about previously, and I'm going to do another video shortly on it, is about creating that buffer of time so that you don't experience that internal pressure to the same degree. Next, money anxiety. Money anxiety, cash flow problems can cause a lot of overwhelm for entrepreneurs, especially in high periods of uncertainty. Like as a business owner, if you don't have certainty and the sustainable cash flow, suddenly it can become incredibly draining thinking about, where's my next client going to come from? How on earth can I move myself forward sustainably if I can't get this done? And now suddenly, how do I pay my team? How do I pay my employees? Rent's due, you've got your family. Now suddenly there's a lot of money anxiety. This is where you've got to come up with a plan, get some things in place, understand your financial freedom blueprint. Like there's loads of different elements there to include, but money anxiety is a big one that can cause a lot of overwhelm for entrepreneurs. Next, we've got self-neglect. Okay, self-neglect is one of the ones that I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with when they just prioritize their business. Because if you're neglecting yourself, what happens is there's only so much that you can give, right? If you're starting each day and your glass is only half full, you can only give half that glass. And if you are neglecting yourself and you're not putting yourself first, what happens is, and this often happens through time, it's not immediate, it just chips away at you over time, and suddenly you're at a place where you just can't do what you need to do to run the business. And if you're someone that feels like you need to chill out, you need a break, you need a holiday, you don't even know what's going to happen, right? Self-neglect could be the one for you. This is where you need to start prioritizing yourself, putting the routines in place. Do not wake up and just look at your phone and get to work. That is the worst thing to do, right? I remember being in China and I had a lot of clients, at the time, people pinging me from all over the world, right? I'd wake up, shit's there, right? I go to sleep, problems are happening. I've got to deal with things left, right, and center. That's too much stress for anyone to deal with. You need to have some space, give yourself some time to actually chill out too. Next, number 9, we have time shortage. So time shortage is where you feel like you're running out of time each day. So there's just not enough time in the day to get stuff done. You're doing all these things, but you just do not have enough time. You need an extra 2, 3, 4 hours every day in order to get stuff done. If you feel like you've got that time pressure, right? Maybe you feel like you're procrastinating on some elements, you're just not being productive. There's probably that time shortage. And this is where it's important to really schedule elements. So instead of having that list of tasks to do, you've got that schedule and you can see like this is realistic of what I need to do as opposed to just working off a list. Maybe you're someone that needs to set some time blocks. But there's that relationship that you have with time that needs to be overcome so that you've got that element and it's easier for you to be able to be sustainable without running out of that time. And what happens often with this is because of that time shortage, it runs onto weekends. And then often these can deal, and then suddenly you've got self-neglect, you've got these other elements. And this is where often these are intertwined, but if you can understand the core, suddenly it can help you move forward. Now, the last one, all right, thank you for staying with me. If you stayed here this long, hopefully you're finding this content useful, is team stress. Now, team stress is where suddenly you're feeling overwhelmed trying to manage your team, right? Stuff's going wrong, there aren't systems in place, you feel like you're being pulled in multiple directions. How do I manage them and do my own stuff and get that done? And they're not doing this right and someone screwed that up and I've got to go there. And now suddenly you're feeling stressed because most likely you've hired a B team instead of an A team. If you hire an A-team player, most problems go away, right? That's so important to think about. If you hire an A-team player, most of these problems disappear. They know what to do. They get things done. They've got experience. They can think by themselves. They're thinking outside the box. They're thinking ahead. They're growing. That's so key. So I hope you find this content useful, right? So we've got those 10 different types. If you'd like some support with this overwhelm, right? Me and my trainers are happy to have a conversation with you with how we support entrepreneurs like yourself who are feeling overwhelmed to move to being a consistent entrepreneur thriving in business and life. Our coaching is 4 times more effective than anything out there. We can show you literally logically how it works and why it's so impactful. So feel free to reach out to us, and I'd love to share how we can support you on your entrepreneurial journey. Have a great day, and I hope you manage to get over that overwhelm and create that sustainable success.